All right, today we're going to unpack a pretty simple economic question that actually has some huge effects. We're pulling our insights from a great microeconomics lecture series by Michael Rabiv in Jerusalem. It all kicks off when the price of one single thing changes, and that sets off this chain reaction that can totally reshape entire markets. We're talking about complements and substitutes, and trust me, by the end of this, you're going to start seeing them absolutely everywhere.
So let's start with a classic scenario. Picture this. You're running a business, or maybe you're just doing your weekly shopping. You notice the price of one product goes up. What happens next? Well, the impact rarely stops with just that one item, does it?
And here it is, the central puzzle for today. If the price of, let's call it product X, suddenly jumps, how does that mess with our demand for a related product? Now, you might think there's just one simple answer, but it's not that easy. It all comes down to the kind of relationship those two products have.
And that leads us right into our first case, complementary goods. The best way to think about these is as product partners, things that just work better together. So let's break down exactly how they're linked.
So what are they exactly? Well, complementary goods are two items you almost always use as a pair. Think about it. Peanut butter and jelly, a car and gasoline, a printer and its ink cartridges. The absolute key thing to remember is that the demand for one is directly, and I mean directly, tied to the demand for the other. They're a team.
The lecture in our source material totally nails this with a perfect modern example, a smartphone and its charger. I mean, you can't really have one without the other for very long, right? This inseparable relationship is the secret to understanding the whole chain reaction that's about to happen.
Okay, so let's walk through this chain reaction. It all starts with step one. The smartphone gets way more expensive. Well, that leads right to step two, which is just classic economics. People buy fewer phones. And here's the critical link to step three. If fewer people are buying new phones, then it's obvious they're going to need fewer chargers. See how that works? The demand for one just pulls the other one down with it.
So what's the bottom line for our poor charger? In the world of economics, we show this drop in demand as the demand curve shifting to the left. But don't let the jargon scare you. It's really just a simple visual way of saying that overall, at any given price, fewer people are looking to buy a charger than before. Plain and simple, demand has dropped.
All right, so we've seen what happens when products are partners in crime. But what happens when they're rivals? This brings us to our second case, which is all about substitute goods. A substitute good is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's an alternative. It's a product you can use instead of another one to get the same job done. Like choosing between coffee or tea in the morning or taking the bus instead of the train. The point is, you typically choose one or the other, but probably not both.
And you guessed it. The source lecture gives us another killer real-world example, the classic showdown between iPhone and Samsung. These two are textbook substitutes. They are fighting tooth and nail for the very same customers.
Now let's trace this reaction, because it's the complete opposite of what we just saw. Step one, the price of the new iPhone goes way up. For a lot of people, that's a deal breaker. Which brings us to step two. They decide not to buy an iPhone this year. But they still need a new smartphone, right? And that's where the substitute swoops in, leading to step three. They look at the competition and end up buying more Samsung phones. The demand doesn't just vanish, it shifts over to the rival. And the result of all that? The demand curve for Samsung phones shifts to the right. This is a clear signal that demand has increased. At every single price point, more people are now interested in buying a Samsung, all because its biggest competitor decided to get more expensive.
So let's bring it all home. We started with what seemed like a simple question, but now we see the answer is, well, it depends. It's not one size fits all. It's all about understanding the unique relationship between the two products.
And this quote from the source lecture just sums it up perfectly for complementary goods. An expensive phone means fewer phones are sold, which has to mean fewer chargers are needed. It's a direct downward spiral, the total opposite of what we just saw with the rival phones.
So why should you care about any of this? Believe me, this is not just some stuffy theory for a textbook. Businesses live and die by these ideas. They use this logic every day to predict how a price change on one product is going to affect their entire lineup. It's exactly why a company might put printers on a huge sale. They know they'll make up the money selling you high-priced ink later. And for us as shoppers, it helps us see the subtle forces that are guiding our own choices at the store.
So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Now that you get the difference between complements and substitutes, just look around you. Think about the stuff you buy. What other pairs can you come up with? Hot dogs and buns? Movie tickets and popcorn? Coke and Pepsi? Once you get this simple rule, it kind of changes how you see the entire marketplace.